how on earth did you learn about something that was evolving? It wasn't even like, when you go to university or school, like you're learning about something that's already happened. This was something that was happening. There was no kind of like blueprint to this, or no textbooks to learn about it. Like, how did you actually go about learning it first, like, and understanding it?
So yeah, the first thing that I do if you want to learn anything about Web3, crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, is read the Bitcoin white paper. From there, you can do quite a deep dive into all of the projects that have come from there. To explain it quite simply, Web 1 was the start of the internet, which was sort of like a read-only internet. We'd go on there and we could read like information and articles, which is essentially loads of computers connected together, allowed us to read information from all over the world. Web 2 was when social media began. This allowed us to create our own content and share it with our friends. But essentially, we were products of, Facebook,
We don't own any of that content. It's our content, but we don't own it. They own it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we become the product through their advertising model.
And they can just shut our pages down at any time, like you've experienced as well.
Yeah, essentially. And it's just a small group of people having a lot of power over the whole internet, which obviously is just not fair. So Web3 is, and the aim of Web3 is to build like a fair, connected and intelligent internet. So by using the blockchain, we can create a sort of a decentralized version of the internet that allows us to own assets, own our own content, intellectual property, be able to create content and share it with people, but also get paid for that content as well. So it creates everything into a digital asset, essentially. So Web3 is really this like super fair, advanced internet where everyone can make money and doesn't have to be a product of advertising. So yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to get behind because, if we can all make money and we can produce content, then that doesn't just leave it down to like a couple of influencers that maybe get brand deals, but it opens it up to everyone.
Because you can then go and sell your content to people, right?
Exactly that, yeah. And especially if you're an artist, that is the premise of NFTs, is allowing artists to be able to sell their work and allow them to be discovered in a way that they wouldn't be discovered before.
So if I'm an influencer, I mean, it's all well and good. Like, I've got a following, I can sell that content. But like, if you're just a normal person, I suppose I've actually answered my own question there, because necessarily it's all about just owning your content, right? You don't have to want to sell it.
Exactly, yeah. But also the way that it works within Web3 is it's a lot more about community. So, anyone that's interested in this sort of emerging technology, there's huge communities being built, and you've got undiscovered artists who can quite quickly create like a beautiful piece of art, share it amongst the community, and if people resonate with what they're doing, then there's a way for them to make money. Whereas opposed, to, let's say they just posted it on Instagram, they're just going to get some hearts, likes, and comments. They're not actually going to make any money from it. So it's very difficult. If you find someone that you really love their work on Instagram right now, you can't support them. Whereas NFTs allows us to be able to say, yes, I back you, and I love your artwork, and I want to pay my respect to you by either paying a tip to appreciate what you're doing, or be able to actually purchase your work. So that would never exist. You wouldn't
be able to pay that in physical cash, though. It'd have to be through a wallet and digital currency, right?
Yeah, so this is done through the blockchain.
Is there any way that you can migrate the two, or is it literally just impossible? You have to, if you're with Web3, you have to pay through some form of wallet, or is there actually a possibility to be able to do that with actual physical, just normal cash?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. So in the beginning, no, you did just have to have a wallet. But what's actually happening, we work with a company called MoonPay, and they sort of have on-off ramp wallets, which essentially will allow you to pay in fiat, normal currency, so US dollars or dirhams or pounds, and it automatically converts that into a stable coin or Ethereum, pays the artist in that way, and then converts back. You would never have to purchase Ethereum or Bitcoin or USDT or USDC in order to pay for it. You could just pay in your normal currency, and MoonPay will take care of everything else on their end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, again, it's like that question. It's like at the beginning it didn't, but it's evolved to the point of where somebody's gone, right, okay. And I think that's it's almost like, because I'm new to learning Web3 and stuff like that. It's almost like everything's starting to make a little bit more sense as I understand it in more detail. But
touching on the point that you just made, I think there's a huge issue at the moment with this sort of obsession of onboarding the next sort of billion users to Web3. And I think we actually need to stop trying to onboard other people to Web3 and actually just make Web3 a lot more accessible. So as you mentioned, being able to purchase something in fiat currency, would massively change the way that people can interact with NFTs. And I think that the main issue that exists today is a lot of people don't really understand Web3. And I think with anything that any kind of product that you're using, you never really know what software it's been built on or how it's been built. And I think in order for Web3, the next iteration of the internet, to be really successful, we need to make it so it actually doesn't feel like Web3. So they don't have to interact with wallets. They don't have to understand which blockchain it's built on or where to get the next airdrop. So I think that's going to be part of what happens over sort of the next 12 months is just building it so it's much more integrated into what already exists.
Because it's true what you say there. Brings up a valid point. Is Web 2 was so easy to transition into that barely anyone really spoke about it, right? It was like, oh, social media, you can upload photos, great. It wasn't like Web 2 involved and stuff like that. I don't think even really I noticed that anyone say Web 2. It was just like Web 1, Web 2, and then Web 3, but that only was spoken about once Web 3 existed and people compared the difference between Web 1 and Web 2. So yeah, and like you say, it's like everything in life is if you don't understand it, then you'll just avoid it. But at the same time, it's like there's so much resistance to it. But it is literally, when you say it out loud from a blockchain perspective, is obviously everything that you're putting onto it is something that you own yourself rather than somebody else.
So it does make sense to use the technology, and I think it will benefit everyone in every single industry. And it's not new either. Blockchain technology has been around for like 10, 15 years. It's just not been utilized in the way that would describe this next iteration of the internet. So I do think that once we can make things, and this is what we're doing with brands as well, every time we're working with them, we're looking at what they're doing, we're going, right, this is extremely complex what you're doing. It would benefit millions and millions of users, but we need to make sure that we're not just focusing on how do we speak to Web3 natives and how do we actually just speak to everyone? So really thinking about the communication and demystifying a lot of the jargon that's involved with it.
And when it comes to, I pay majority of the time through Apple Pay now. I rarely touch physical cash. Would that, apart from the token aspect of it, it's pretty much similar, right? Like
it's very similar. You don't really know what mechanisms are being used when you're using Apple Pay, do you? Or what software is being used?
You just use it because it's easy.
It's ease of use, And I do think what will be the difference, once we all have these different tokens that we've collected for different things from different companies we interact with, what would be the difference if we were clicking one button on the side, scanning our face and paying for something, whether it's coming from a crypto wallet or whether it's coming from, one of your bank accounts?
With Web3, there's a number of components to it, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I understand, it's decentralization, the blockchain, and then the token aspect of it as well, like cryptocurrencies and stuff. Is there a hierarchy of importance towards these key elements, or are they all just as important as each other on Web3?
So I think they're essentially part of the Web3 ecosystem. So blockchain is it's essentially an online ledger. It stores every single transaction. It's transparent for everyone in the world to see, which obviously doesn't exist with like bank accounts. You can't see every transaction that everyone does. So it's. Sorry to interrupt you, but like I'm just thinking out loud here. Do you want people to see that? Do you want people to see how much money you've got? Doesn't that then allow people to direct kind of like trying to get that money from you, basically? Well, they would have to know that it was your wallet address. So you can remain anonymous. Obviously, there are sort of ETH domains that you can buy, and a lot of people, we're in a flex economy, so a lot of people who have some really expensive NFTs will buy an ETH domain, which would basically, with you, it would be like danny.eth, and people could see what's in your wallet. But you choose, if you want to show what's in your wallet. It's more about there being a very transparent record of every single transaction. And that allows things like intellectual property to be stored in images, to see who actually owns something, be able to see if business owners are transacting fairly. So, if you launch a token, for instance, and then you start selling it on everyone, once lots of people have invested in your brand and your token, then you can see, well, that founder has sold all the tokens. So why would we support this project? Yeah. So it does allow things to be, as I said, like a fairer, more open and connected internet this way.
But can people log on and see like effectively what your net worth is and what you've got in there, like your actual wallet? Like if I've got, say, for example, $5 million in ETH, can people check on my wallet and go, right, that guy's got $5 million in ETH?
Only if you had it as, say, an open wallet, so it was one of your wallets. If you kept it on an exchange, for instance, no one will be able to see what money that you have. Yeah. But it would all be if you made your wallet address public to who you are. So, I have multiple wallets. And no one knows what they are. They'd only know ones that they transact with. So you don't have to share everything. Yeah. It's more to allow a level of transparency when it's needed.
Yeah. Okay.
And the great thing is any of those transactions, once they're done, they're immutable on record. They cannot be changed.
Yeah. Like, how did you get started with wallets then? So like, if I'm listening to this and going, okay, cool, I want to try this out. How do you find, and how do you do due diligence on what is a good wallet?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies out there. I think it's always best to go with the most popular and reputable ones. MetaMask is pretty much the standard to open up a wallet. But also Ledger allows you to have sort of like your own wallet that you own. I'm sure you probably heard this phrase, which is not your keys, not your wallet. Essentially, what happens is a lot of people keep a lot of money on exchanges, and there's been a lot of fallout from exchanges that were, bad actors that were using funds like FTX. I'm sure you probably heard of, and a few others that have done similar things. So I'd always recommend everyone to get a wallet from Ledger.